Welcome to the second episode of the HB Exchange. I'm Jason Kilbride, your host for today, and MD at Henderson Brown. Hit the like and follow button if you aren't already, and you can follow myself and Henderson Brown on LinkedIn. Today's guest, we welcome Steve Maxwell, CEO of Worldwide Fruit. We're going to be talking through stakeholder management, a lean culture, and creating a continuous improvement mindset throughout the business. So without further ado, let's get on with the episode. Steve, morning. How are you?
Good, thank you, Jason. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, no, I'm pleased that you could come on my first podcast. And to be honest, as I said to you a minute ago, first one, and nice to have you on it because obviously we know each other quite well. So it'll be nice and relaxed and hopefully get me in the flow for future podcasts as well.
So I'm basically your guinea pig?
Yeah, very much so.
Okay.
But it makes me more relaxed that you're my guinea pig. So just to start with, because obviously I know you quite well, but people who listen to this are going to be in sector and probably out of sector. So if you could just give us a little bit of an overview about you, your background, career-wise, etc.
So now I'm Chief Exec at Worldwide Fruit. So we're based in Spalding, and we're about 155 million turnover, 400 people. We are in apples, pears, avocados, and stone fruit, and we also make fruit baskets. And alongside our site in Spalding, we work with a number of English growers, so we do a lot of packing in Kent as well. So I've been in Worldwide Fruit now 25 years, so proper industry veteran.
Yeah, got the gold watch.
No, silver. But before that, so obviously Scottish, I'm not from Lincolnshire. I went to uni and did an accountancy degree and decided I didn't want to be an accountant. So when I left uni, I got a job on the graduate programme with Smith's Crisps, which is now Walker's. And then I left Walker's and joined Golden Wonder, another crisp and snack manufacturer.
Was it potato then? Or?
No, so everyone I work for gets sold after I leave or during when I'm there. So
that's why the owners of Worldwide Fruit have kept you in so long.
So far. But Golden Wonder, I was in Edinburgh then, and I moved down to Market Harbour, where our head office was, and then moved to London. And back in the early 90s, Golden Wonder sold the pot noodle brand to CPC. CPC is now part of Unilever. So I moved to London with them, always in sales roles. After about a year and a half, I left it and joined Bryant & May, which was tobacco and matches and so forth. And then, so that was really from 1990 to 98. I'd always been in branded businesses, working my way up in account management. And I kind of decided then I wanted to work in own label and I wanted to work in fresh. I can't really explain why. It's just that I wanted to be more involved in the end-to-end chain. Instead of to a degree being given a marketing deck, go sell the marketing deck. And by luck, I wandered into a job with what became Fruition, so the English side of Worldwide Fruit, and that came together in 2000. So I've been in fresh produce since then.
Good.
I kind of think when you come from brands into fresh produce, at best it's a 50-50 success rate. Because a lot of people don't like the involvement because it is all-encompassing across that end-to-end supply chain. And I love it, so it's kind of why I stayed.
It's interesting you say that because you do see, I think probably the hit rate is maybe even less than that in terms of people who survive. Yeah. It's you see it and people come across and then they just really struggle with the pace, like you said, the intensity, and it is all-encompassing and it is everything.
So I was fast-moving consumer goods, so crisps is a number of weeks. My Knorr soup could last 3 years. How's that FMCG?
Yeah.
No, now we're dealing with products that last days, and that does give you the pace.
So before we jump into some questions and sort of key topics, if you could you've given a bit of an overview of Worldwide Fruit, but just to understand a little bit about the complexity of the business, just because I think some of the topics we go on, it'll be good for people to understand the sort of complexity of the business and its setup.
Okay, so we've got two shareholders. We're owned by Fruition PO, which is an English grower producer organisation, so cooperative, and also a T&G Global, which is New Zealand fresh produce business. And that's really a linear progression from the New Zealand apple industry before it was deregulated. Our third shareholder used to be Geest, which is why we're in Spalding. So we're in Spalding, and across our business, probably delivering to about 84 RDCs a day. Job changes, 170 job changes a day across the sites. On a normal, over a year, there'll be maybe 294 SKUs. We deal with 18 countries, the 84 main suppliers, a plethora of growers underneath that. Mm-hmm. So basically anywhere in the world that you can get apples and pears or avocados or stone fruit, we've got to be there. We've got to know who those people are. And it's you're building your plan. It's not a jigsaw, it's got a progression, but you have to be involved worldwide to make sure you're always challenging yourself that you're delivering the very best for your customer.
Mm-hmm. And how many customers do you have roughly?
So we're very much supermarket focused. We've got 7 main customers, and then we work with a business called Growers Direct, which is joint venture and wholesale, and we also have a number of processing customers too.
Good. Well, so as you can see, why I wanted to give some context, because it's a complex business, isn't it? And lots of different stakeholders, lots of different people involved, which is obviously a key topic that we're going to discuss today. Before we just jump into that, I just wanted to get your comments on where you feel the fresh produce industry is at the moment. Obviously, in the last week or two, UK salads are another one that's spit the dust. Yeah. And there's a lot of change going on. And I've never seen in the time I've been in the sector so much change, so many businesses struggling and becoming insolvent. Where do you feel the industry is at the moment?
So I think the industry is at a difficult position. And I think if I go back, so I really felt fruit attraction in October last year, you could really feel from the supply base, there was a shortening of supply and there was a real impact of inflationary cost. Mm-hmm. And you could feel that across the industry there. And that's now progressed into when we're in Fruit Logistic in Berlin last month. You could really see that coming through. So I think what's driving a lot of it is UK fresh produce has kind of had a plentiful supply of virtually everything from everywhere for a long time. And that's changing because there's not too many global oversupplies. And if there's not an oversupply, it then becomes more about what your competitor countries and the competitor markets are willing to pay for that fruit. And if you don't pay that money, you're not going to get the product. So I think it is leading to more genuine supply and demand conversations about how you ensure you have availability. Our job is to ensure that we are doing that connective work from the grower suppliers through to retailers with a huge amount of market knowledge, continually challenging ourselves on what we can do to remove waste and cost, and then presenting those options that mean this is really what we have to do to ensure we've got availability, because I think availability is key. If it's not on shelf, you can't sell it. And where there's sometimes been a fall down is that the ability to deliver at a cost can't be achieved. So that can lead to those businesses being replaced by someone who can do that, or there'll be shortages on shelf. I think just now there's still enough other businesses that can do it, that can meet that demand, but we have to ensure that the relationships from grower to retailer are as seamless and robust as possible, so they can actually understand this isn't cry wolf from a lot of people. A lot of people are genuinely having to recover inflation that's been placed upon them. They're not profiteering, but then again, they also have the ability to sell to a number of other markets who are in the same cost of living crisis as us, where their retailers are also looking to protect consumers. But it's how you stack all that together to ensure that fundamentally we have great tasting, cost-efficient product on shelves for people to buy, because that's what our job is.
And I don't want to sort of go into too much detail on this topic, because we could talk for an hour on it, and rather than sort of focus on the 2 points we do. But do you think this is also an accumulation of sort of underpriced produce over the last decade in the UK and longer? We've always had, if you go into European countries, our produce in the UK is so much cheaper. Do you think that's been a big factor? And do you think longer term, actually, consumers are going to have to pay more?
So it's a question that can take me many ways. So I guess first off, I don't agree that every European country has more expensive fresh produce than us. I mean, I was in Belgium 2 days ago in the Kilbride, and it was really cheap. I think what has happened is we've got the smoothest supply chains, and I think it's got a very mature market for us. I think we will have to pay more to ensure we've got that availability, but I don't think that's an outcome of 10 years of us doing something wrong as an industry previously, and certainly wouldn't blame the retailers for driving that, because what we've all done is we've worked in a mature, smooth industry to deliver that for consumers, which is the right thing. Mm-hmm. And those who haven't been strong enough or robust enough to a degree have fallen off the page. And it's our job to kind of make sure that we give consumers as cheap fruit as possible, whilst protecting the sustainability of our growers. And that's the key. We need to make sure we've got happy growers and happy consumers. Mm. And if we can do that with not putting too many inflationary pressures on either, that's how you get the success out of it. Yeah. I don't think this is an endpoint of wrong decisions. I think it's an endpoint that's primarily driven by a shock of inflation, because we haven't had inflation forever. So if I go back to when I started in the 90s, you used to have price increase conversations all the time because inflation was running 5%, 6%. We've had years and years and years of inflation being under 2%. Mm. And that's a shock to the system.
Mm. Yeah, good. Well, just moving on to the two key topics that we want to discuss today, because you and I have lots of conversations about this, and I think it's two areas that you're extremely knowledgeable and strong in, is about managing stakeholders, and as we've discussed, the complexity of your business, and then moving on afterwards to sort of a lean and CI culture, or fostering that environment in a business. So we're just going to start with stakeholder management and a little bit around that. So how do you define stakeholder management, and why is it important, do you feel, to the success of your business and you in your role?
Okay. I guess, first off, I don't actually use the word stakeholder. I think it's a word that's up for interpretation all the time. But if I think about what our business is, we've got three chunks. So we've got our supply chain, we have our customers, and then there's our own business in the middle. So I'd say our stakeholders are everybody that's involved in one of those three parts. And what we're trying to do is have that seamless pool. And so when I talk about pool, it's about, this is what my demand is, this is how I can create demand, this is how I can deliver demand. How do I ensure pulling back across the alignment with my grower suppliers, the work that's done internally with our own business to deliver that? And that's where at times you will find there are conflicting preferences, there's conflicting priorities, but we have to have that main point there, because I talk about World Wide Fruit, we have a direction of travel. We want to be an employer of choice. So that means in the stakeholder world, I have to have my team happy working for us and people wanting to join us. Mm-hmm. We need to work with great suppliers, and the great suppliers means how we define what we want from suppliers, how we engage with them, and how we have that joint relationship, because our overall aim is to be a customer's first choice. So how do we then do that to make sure that the customer wants to work with us because we're meeting their needs, they're exceeding their needs in a cost-efficient way with great tasting products that ensures that our business is done the right job, our suppliers are aligned to the needs, and we're pulling that through. And then outside that, how do we work with the bank? How do we work with all our packaging suppliers? How do we work with labour providers? How do we work with our shareholders? Those are all the external influences that come into it. But then there are some bits where you can't actually, you can't influence, but they do play a part in it. So like government, both at local and at national level. So at all points, you're working across these three buckets to try and deliver the right thing. And it's fluid, it changes, it's situational leadership really at its finest. And you have to talk to people all the time, and you have to genuinely want to do it. You have to genuinely want to engage your customers, get things right. You have to genuinely care about your team and genuinely want to make sure your supply base is sustainable. Because if you get them right, you'll meet your mission of of being a customer's first choice because you're delivering what they want.
You made a good point in there, and where I feel that the stakeholder engagement or stakeholder management, I should say, is a challenge, is where you've got conflict throughout that. And you're going to, because people have different objectives, people have different agendas. How does that, obviously that's a key part of stakeholder management and a key part of your role. How do you sort of ensure that your communication lines on those challenges are effective and work well?
So, I mean, at its core, you can talk about materiality assessments, but you don't do that because that's just a bit more set piece. It is that communication. If you think about it, so for me, I'm always on about a retail pool. So what's that pool part from there?
What's the end part?
Yeah. So I'm not pushing,
I'm
not pushing things through, I'm pulling things through. So to start from the end, it's alignment. It really becomes about engagement and alignment through that. Because we'll come on to CI, and I think CI is enterprise excellence. It's people, purpose, and process with customer results at the heart. And you've got to remember that for me, our suppliers and growers are also customers. So it's that result at the heart. And if you get the engagement alignment across that, it'll give you the best chance. But there's always conflicts and priorities. One of the things that I have a whiteboard in my office that I write things up just to remind me. And sometimes it changes, but just now I've got up there urgent versus important. When the winds of change, when there's winds of change, some build walls and some build windmills. You know, there's just these little things that keep you thinking, right, what is it we actually need to do? What's the right thing to do? Not just what's the easy thing to do or the thing that fits my preference. Because we have to think what's best for that pull-through mechanic.
And how have you built the sort of trust and relationships over the time, and how do you maintain that through each parts of the process and with each of the stakeholders?
So experience helps. So it helps that we've got a pretty experienced team where the people we're dealing with, especially in supply base, they know who you are and they trust you because of your performance over the years. And then if we look purely at our supply base, we have a very transparent supplier scorecarding system. And we've worked close with the retailers to understand that this is our scorecard and this is aligned to what you want to be seeing as well. And then if that's transparent and it's really regular communication and it's really open communication, and we foster communication between those where we're involved, but the communication is end to end, then you'll get that trust. With our retailers, again, it's all about transparency and honesty and openness. So as a business, I'm never scared of openness. I'm never scared of mistakes because we must always try. If you're hiding things, what's the point of hiding things? I just don't see why you hide things. And then you've got your own team, and we have our own pressures where there isn't an excess of people living around where our facilities are. So how do we ensure we have enough people in those facilities? How do we ensure we've got the training programs and the mindsets in place that encourages progression through that facility? And then across other roles, how do we ensure that people want to join us? Or it's about making sure we've got the people on the pathways internally that they can see their progression. And their progression will be about doing the right thing for these guys, the right things for these guys, because that's the right thing for us that actually ensures the alignment and the engagement.
So again, you've used that word a lot about communication throughout, and I think that's key, isn't it, for building trust at any level, is communication and transparency. Where, as a business, you've been transparent and open and communicated throughout, how do you take the feedback and how much do you welcome feedback from each part of the process in that communication line?
So we've just done some work internally with the senior team about so it's kind of tied into personality profiles about what's your preferred state and also what your secondaries. And people at times have to understand that people are just people. You know, sometimes it's like, oh, I don't quite agree with that, I don't like it, but it's still been given, so it still comes from a position of honesty, and from that person you have to take on board and think, well, that's right, that challenge can be right. But if you don't think it's right, you have to defend, because it might be about context, because context gets lost so many times.
Yeah.
So what is it we're trying to do here? But that can only happen if there's if it's communication, we always talk in our business about having a can-do attitude. And
it's one of your key phrases in the business. It's one of the values, isn't it?
It's tied into the value of our values of quality, innovation, passion together. So it's tied into that, and it's about looking forward. And if you think, one of the other things, I'm not a fan of amber. So in red, amber, green, I don't like amber. So if somebody's giving me feedback, it's because I'm in the red space. So how do I make sure that we get ourselves back in the green space? And how do we ensure then that those people giving us the feedback agree with us and think we're doing the right things to help them? Because our job is to help other people achieve their outcomes. So feedback's good, but you can't help at times by just people are people. Sometimes you just can't help but go like, ooh.
That didn't make sense. I don't enjoy that conversation.
Yeah, but it's what you have to do.
And one thing we've not touched on is you've got lots of stakeholders as well in terms of, like you said, cooperative of growers.
Yeah.
So not only an owner in your business has more stakeholders within it, you've also got Enza as an owner as well. So you've got complex, you get it at lots of different angles at all times. Does that sometimes make your role even harder? And do you think that stakeholder management is a challenge because of the complexity? So let's say you were owned by a family, one owner at the top. I mean, different challenges. Yeah. We hear about those all the time. But do you think that really adds to it? And how do you then manage that and their integration? Because they're going to want to get involved in some of that stakeholder relationship.
It's fundamentally, I love being owned by growers because I think of T&G Enza as growers as well. So I love having that link all the way back. That there's authenticity, the fact that we are grower-owned. And it means that when we talk to people about their challenges, it's the guy who's in the orchard who's telling us those challenges. And it means when we're saying, this is what we're looking for here, there's no barriers to the communication with those owner stakeholders. So I love that. I think it's really important. I think it's really good. And it gives you a wide viewpoint about what's happening across agriculture. From the fruition, it gives a really wide viewpoint in the UK for T&G. They're not just New Zealand, they're in a number of countries around the world, which gives us a really nice view of what's happening out there. We can understand the challenges that other people are facing. Because when we talk about last year had a lot of challenges in the supply chain, which were primarily weather-driven. So if there's an issue in country A, it will not just impact on supply from country A to us, it will impact on other countries who've got products similar or the same. Where do they go? What are their options? What are their choices? So it's good to have ears in different countries to actually understand what they're doing to meet the same challenge, because we've all got the same challenge. So what is it you can learn from there, learn from each other, that means you can still ensure, remember my fundamental thing is I need to always ensure I've got that great product on the shelf. So I really see it as a positive.
Do you have to check yourself in quite often about that is our goal, is to have great quality product on shelf for customers? Do you have to sometimes just take yourself back out and go, I need a reset, this is where I am?
So we've got, you walk in our place, our mission, our objective is to be customers' first choice. You're only customers' first choice if you deliver a great product. So we need to deliver that great product. It's not as easy as I want to make it sound, but I need to make sure that I'm first choice because I've delivered great product at great prices that's delivering their consumers great product that they'll continue to buy ongoing. And that, I keep saying the words engaging and align, that has to always flood back through the business. And I'm not talking about it being a straight line. It's not a straight line, it's a circle, and it goes up and down.
It's a spaghetti junction at times.
You have to have at your heart the view that we're all working together to give people great tasting fruit at good prices.
And this is a huge part of your role. And I just wanted to talk about now, in conclusion, around that skill of stakeholder management and just bring it back outside of the business is, do you think this is something naturally, and I would say you're good at this, and I think if you ask people in your business or customers, suppliers, etc., this is a natural skill of yours. Would you say it's natural or something you've learned over time?
I'd say it's something I've learned over time.
So if you went back to Steve in the early days, he would have struggled in terms of that stakeholder management.
If you think I come from a salesman background, you've kind of got that whole thing, isn't it? Are you a farmer or a hunter?
Yep.
I think when you're supplying fresh produce, and remember, we're supplying every single day, except for Christmas Day, every single day of the year. So you are, by default, a farmer, and everybody I deal with is a farmer. So we have to ensure that you're authentic with your communication, you authentically care, and you authentically want to win. Because that's what I'm saying at the end. If I'm going to be first choice, it means because we're winning. It means that we're actually doing the right thing. So that little bit of the hunter in you as a salesman is always like, well, actually, are doing the right things because I can see the results here. But the results should always be the outcomes of your activities, not the target of your activities. Mm-hmm. So always do the right thing. Always have that pull through. If you do that, you'll get things right. If you start from there about how to exploit's the terrible word, but how do you exploit supply chain? It's completely the wrong thing to do. It is about how do we work together to meet that need over here. And that's all about having the mindset of like, we're in this together. We really want to make people happy. How do we do that? How do we continually challenge ourselves to make it a bit better? And if you do that, you then get the emotional benefit that everybody wants by at the end going like, we did a really good job. And I think that's what the mindset is. And at times, the other part I'd say to that very strongly is sometimes you get things wrong. And that's absolutely okay. Because if you didn't get things wrong, it means you're not trying enough things. So
it's about failing fast, isn't it? And learning from it.
Exactly. And I think that has really been a benefit over the career of like where I feel positive about things now is because
you failed past. And I think just that piece then around that natural skill and experience, it sounds like a lot of it's come from experience throughout. And you've said through failures you've learned. And
so it's through mentors, a lot of it's through degrees of training. You can look at different courses, but fundamentally, if you've created a business system that says this is how we want our business to act, that kind of is the output of how we act.
So in conclusion, if somebody was listening to this and they were part of an SLT and this was a development point for them on their PDP, that they need to be better at managing stakeholders, and whether we agree or not, that's a phrase that should be in someone's PDP is a different story, but say it is in there. What advice would you give to those people, or also someone coming up on their career as well and thinks, that's something I would love to get to the position of being an executive leader in a business and this is something I need the skill set for? What advice would you give to them to get that exposure or experience or the failures that you've gone through?
The first thing is never assume that you know what those people want. So you can only manage their expectations if you know what they are. Mm-hmm. And by speaking to people, not email, by speaking to people, you'll actually understand their position, and you can put across different positions. It starts first and foremost with that engagement. Really listen. And if you disagree, tell them why you disagree. But listen and understand and think, my role is to help this process. My role is to help all these people deliver that end. So I got to ask.
Go and ask. Be engaging and communication again.
Yeah, it really is.
This now leads into, I think, the next half of what we're going to discuss, because you said there about what I described as failing fast and so on, and that's often about creating a culture and an environment where that's acceptable, and something you and I have spoke about for years, and I think you've fostered within the environment at Worldwide Fruit with yourself and the leadership team and previous people who have been in your leadership team, is this CI culture, lean environment through the business. So just to start with, what does continuous improvement or lean mean to you, and how have you built that environment within the business?
Okay, so it's progressed really from about 2010 we first started looking at it, and we were first exposed to it within the Marks and Spencer's How We Do Business framework, which came out of Plan A, and from there it really started on a lean thinking, lean manufacturing. But what we decided to do at the very start was, and I still have this internal thing, our business, there's operations excellence and there's enterprise excellence. They are two different things. And when we started lean, the place everyone starts lean is in the factory with a model line. But when we did it, even though it was going to be operationally based, at that point, commercial, finance, technical have to be involved, because at the very start we're going, so we're doing this to deliver a benefit to the supply chain. So that means it can't live in our factory. It has to be shared and explained both sides of the supply chain. So we did that. And then lean moves into, once you've got lean manufacturing, you've got more lean process, you've got more people trained, lean thinking becomes CI, which becomes that continuous improvement, which if you saw the house of all the way through, you had CI underneath as a bedrock. And we've now changed that and evolved into using the term enterprise excellence, which is that extension of thinking, whereas we're looking at the whole enterprise being excellent. So that's where it's a process, people, and purpose, customer results at the heart. So all points are thinking like, well, our business, if you think about the different buckets it talked about or what we're trying to achieve, it's always about what we're trying to achieve, the purpose. How do we get there is the process, and who does it with us is the people. So if we get that working correctly, it kind of gives you that superpower. But it does by default usually mean you're doing more work in a factory. But a simple thing is, I remember at the very start, the very first process map we did was spec alignment. So you're buying it from a grower at this, it's coming to the back door here, it's going on the line here, it's been packed there, it's the back door there, there's a customer expectation there. And back in 2010, that might not be aligned. It certainly wasn't aligned for every product that we dealt with. And every time you've got something misaligned, you're creating a waste. So if you think about it like a pipe, you've got like little pinholes where things are coming out. And if that pinhole is too big, it causes a flood, and then you've got a real issue. So how do we ensure that that pipe doesn't have pinholes in it, doesn't have big gouges in it? Because that will ensure that we're doing the right things to make that process right. Then every so often, you've got to go and break it and see if you can do it better. And it's all about those blocks of right. So just now I've got my green things. My green things are okay just now. What's red? Let's get red to green. Then every so often, let's go review the green as well, because you have to continually think, how do we make it better? If you look at one of the issues we touched on earlier is inflation. Labour costs have gone through the roof. Electricity costs have gone through the roof. So some of that has needed to be passed on. And so the word is it's an emotional word, but some of it has to be mitigated by doing things better. Mm-hmm. So how do you get that right balance? And how do you ensure that your team are trained in the tools and techniques and have the key behaviours that are right to ensure that we can utilise those tools and techniques to achieve our purpose? So that's really, it sounds like a lot of words, but it's quite simple.
Because I've always been fascinated when we've spoke about how you've integrated it as a culture and not just operations. Yeah, because 9 times out of 10 in businesses, it's, well, CI, immediately they just think operational. It's OPEX, etc., all in the factory, all in the white walls. Actually, you've created an environment, and well, not created, you are continually creating an environment and improving it where different areas of the business are involved. And when we've worked with you in the past in different departments, you've got people, haven't you, that have gone through qualifications and training courses in different departments, not just from a operational perspective where you see an ops manager or whatever else who is black belt, green belt, whatever qualified. Actually, you've done it in different departments as well, haven't you, across the business?
So for us, if you look at our senior leadership team, the expectation is everybody's green belt qualified, which is the Cardiff University accreditation. So that's everybody from your management accountant, procurement managers, technical managers, commercial managers, and all parts of operations as well.
So this is a bit you said a minute ago about giving them initially like the tools and the toolkit to actually have the thinking and thought process to be able to do a lot of the piece.
It's actually because it does lead to language, and if you're using different language, how can you expect people to know what you're trying to do?
Well, we spoke about this recently because over the last couple of years, you've had some changes in your senior leadership team and the combination of new people into that and understanding their language that they've used in different organizations and how that now creates a new language within your organization as well.
Yeah, so some of the newer people have come from more site businesses, which are part of a bigger business, who've been more site specific, whereas I'm always trying to pull us across the whole business. And that's OPEX versus NTEX at times. And sometimes it's if you've gone through the Six Sigma, instead of where we've been, it's different language and it has got different focuses. Alongside that, I'm pushing the shingle behaviours, the key behaviour indicators alongside that as well. And so Anna, our people and culture director, about 6 months ago, at one point we moaned about, it's not quite the way it was before. And Anna went, how can it be when there's 30% of the people weren't here? And it's like, exactly. So it has to be ongoing about this is what we're doing, ongoing training about why we're working this way. And
a journey rather than a destination.
Always a journey. There's no such thing as an end of CI. They're closing the name, So it's always about what we're trying to do. And then you have to do, as well as it being part of your job every single day, there has to be set pieces that remind everybody this is why we're working with these values. This is why we're working with these processes, because this is what keeps us fit. And this is
like check-in points.
Yeah, and this is what keeps us focused on our direction of travel. And it's so key that, so if you talk about tools and techniques, they're only good if the people using those tools and techniques are trained and can implement. So when I talk about can do, it's an implementation. It's great having ideas, but what we want is people that walk towards problems, work towards solving problems, and work toward making things better. And then when that's happened, they check. And if that check isn't showing that it's achieving what we want, you act and you try again. And it keeps going, and you keep thinking, like, how do we make this a bit better tomorrow? So a key part of that is having your improvement tracker. So you have to celebrate
a system and a process.
You have to celebrate everything. Like little things like we need some more insulated mats in the pack house. That makes people's jobs better. That's an improvement. We should celebrate that improvement. You can have huge improvements about our procurement policies or what we've done with different growers around the world, and they should be celebrated. But always celebrate the small things as well, because that means you'll get that continuous flow of new ideas that continually helps you move forward.
And we talk about all the different parts of it and integrating operations, but it's the whole piece. You've also just implemented Red Zone, haven't you? Is that helping with that whole piece around the sort of CI journey as well?
Yeah. So we're trying not to be an advert for Red Zone.
But plug. So get some royalties off the back of this one.
So I guess what I'd say there is, so Tim, Ops Director, I always expect Tim, Red Zone's great. Tim's team, Red Zone's great. For me, the key is that all the line leader population, all those guys, they really like it. And it was put in for them. It's put in to help them, and they like it. And so when we talk about having the benefits of a system like Red Zone, we've got a number of other systems too. It's not just the benefits that we can get out of it on productivity, efficiency, and cost. It's about the benefits you can get culturally out of it. So I'd say at this point, I'm certainly very happy with it. But again, I would say we've got some other systems as well that I'm very happy with. And it is about always making sure that culturally are embedded. We never want to impose a system on our people. It has to be a system that our people want and embrace and make the best of.
That's that fostering that environment piece. And you mentioned it before about having balances and check-ins. And one of the key things is about those continuous improvement initiatives. How do you track those and measure those? And you said we go back to and make sure and we analyze that it's embedded and it's working, or it's been done correctly and so on. How do you manage that in the business? Is it centralized? Is it set out by department? Is it individual who's the project sponsor? Or how do you check in with those?
So we have an enterprise excellence system. So our business works within an enterprise excellence system. And from that, so we have a business improvement manager he oversees the system. The responsibility for the activities within that and our key processes. So I don't talk department, my key process is order fulfillment. So the parts of our business that engage in order fulfillment, that's a process. So our enterprise excellence meetings update how we're performing against our processes, update how we're performing against our improvement plans, and share that across that entire population. So it's documented, managed by business improvement manager who reports into operations, but he reports into Tim, but he works for all of us because he's enterprise excellence. He's not ops excellence.
So I should have brought him in to talk about stakeholder management probably.
Yeah. Yeah. And well done, Sam. You baby last week. Well done.
Congratulations.
So when we have that system and you've got so everyone works functionally but has to work across process. So in X meetings, we talk a process, but to a degree from a functional view. But it means that what I'm desperately trying to get to in a process is there's no pass the parcel. So it doesn't mean like,
I've done my bit, here you go.
Yeah. It's like, no, this is all our bit. This is my responsibility. How do I ensure that we work together on the next bit of the chain, and we ensure we work together on the next bit of the chain, and ensure we work together on the next bit of the chain? Because that's, if you go back to that whole thing about the pipe, that's how you ensure there's no holes in the pipe. So it's a systemic way of working that we embed in the business and track. But we always have to make sure that people understand that the people part of it is so key. We have to want to keep doing this because you can't impose systems on people.
Yeah. And do you find sometimes that all of this, and you said before, sometimes CI can be words, language, theoretical. Do you find some people that join your organisation find that a challenge to come into that mindset? Do they have to be a particular type of person, or do you think once they come into that culture, they can start to engage with it and move with it? And do you support them with that?
So everybody gets a chance, but you can't hide from the fact that some people don't like it. It is a really transparent way of working, and it means you have to be very open with your colleagues.
And accountable, I'm guessing, as well.
Because if we red, green, everything, it means it's open, and it means that everyone's can be challenging. And we talk about going to where the work is, going to the Gemba. But it does mean, if you look at the executive team or anyone in our business, you're allowed to pop up where you're not supposed to. So Hannah and the commercial can pop up and ask questions in operations.
And it's welcome.
Yeah, because you've got to think like, this is us, the whole business is us. So we've got to be able to pop up outside of your conventional functional roles, across our process roles, across our business-wide roles, and ask questions. So, you know this thing about, we're allowed to challenge.
Yeah.
Challenge is quite aggressive. We're allowed to ask questions. They can be challenging questions, but these are questions where we're looking for that person to give us back information that helps, rather than a challenging question, because it's like, I'm going to score a point against you.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't foster engagement. So it's kind of mindset.
Asking questions to understand.
Yeah.
And actually then challenging questions.
Help, but, we can do this now, can't we? Yeah.
It's more collaborative. I've never thought of it from that perspective, where when you're saying to someone, be open with that person and challenge them.
Yeah.
Challenge is quite an aggressive word, isn't it?
Because you kind of come from a position where you think you're right and they're wrong.
Mm.
And the thing that I've learned more than anything else in CI is we're often wrong. Because if you think about it, so much of the work happens at a place that we're really quite distant from. So you've got all these expectations or experience things. That's what happens. You've got to go to the work to find out what happens to improve it. You can't do it remotely thinking, I know what works. Because you'll go ask the person that doesn't and go like, yeah, that's not actually what happened.
Going back to what you said about the pipe, if you don't know what's happening at the other end of the pipe, there might be holes all at the bottom and you think it's great at the top.
Yeah, you've got to go there.
So actually, what advice would you give to businesses? Because we've said about it being a journey, and I feel like there's no destination, so you can't be far down the journey. It's always going to be a journey. But what advice would you give to other business leaders or businesses around sort of CI and that culture? Because we touched on it right at the start around the whole sector at the moment, anything to do with manufacturing. There's so many challenges. So what advice would you give to businesses that might not even be on the journey yet?
So senior leadership, and including myself, actually, if you go back, we talked about those colours. So if you're in a senior leadership team, you're normally quite competitive and you normally think you're right. You have to get used to being wrong. You have to park your ego a bit. So park your ego a bit and train your people. Train your people, start somewhere small, train your people and accept that you don't know everything. It is quite you have to have a lot of humility to understand how things work because you're often wrong. And when you get to senior jobs, you've kind of got there because you've got there by being right. And
more times than wrong. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it is a bit like, right, okay then, get that in there. Go to where the work is, list to people where the work is, but have your point in the future, that purpose is what am I trying to do here? What I'm trying to do is deliver my products more cost efficiently to my customer who wants to help me find ways to deliver great products to them more cost efficiently. And you might be changing your products, you might be changing your processes, but you've got to be thinking that end point as well. But train your people, and don't think it happens overnight because it doesn't.
Do you think as well it is a top-down piece in terms of, because you see some businesses go, great, we want to create a CI culture and environment, so we're going to train these people on it and put them there responsible for it. Do you actually think, and it sounds like from your business, as you said about everybody has to be green belt in that exec leadership team as a minimum, do you think it has to start from the top? You have to understand it first to be able to then push it through?
So just one part. So say the green belt's actually the level below. So,
okay.
So we've got a really wide population in green belt. To use a Japanese term, it's like hoshinkanri, or a catchball. I think it's everybody. So I think there needs to be from the top some directional work about what we're trying to achieve. But from the bottom, there needs to be that loop. And when I say the bottom, I mean everybody. There has to be the loop coming back up saying, this is what we're doing. This is how we actually work. This is what we can change. This is what we can achieve. And then there, I was like, right, how do I support you do this? That helps you do that while I'm in the supportive role. It has to be both. But it will not work if your senior leadership team are doing it just because they think they should. It will not work.
Box exercise.
It will not work. It only works if you truly want to do it and you truly park that thing of like, I didn't know what I thought I knew and I'm sometimes wrong, but that will make us better.
Good. Well, thanks for that, Steve. That's a really good overview of both topics, and I feel there's some great insight into your business and so on. As a concluding tradition that we've now started in the business and through this podcast series is we've got a question that's been left by the previous person we've spoken to. So the last question is now put to you, and then you're going to have one to pass on to the next guest into the show. So our last guest left a question, which I think is quite a challenging one for you.
Okay.
His question was, what's the hardest thing you've ever done, career or personal wise?
Okay. Career-wise, what's hard? So I talked about urgent versus important, and sometimes you have to do what the important things are, and that can impact on people. And you have to do it. You just have to do it. And even though it can impact other people, you have to do it. And so you have to have that everybody's a person, so you have to know how this will impact. It's hard to do, but you absolutely must do it. And it's getting yourself in that mindset to remember this is the right thing. So always do that. To make the person ask that hard question possibly regret it, the eulogy at my dad's funeral. See if he can top that.
Well, I can't end on that point. Sombering point. Yeah, that is a tough personal one, I imagine. Yeah. The top of the list. So what's your question you want to give to our next guest?
Next guest, without being cliched, who do you admire? And make it someone that I've not heard of.
Good. Thanks, Steve. I really appreciate your open nature, your transparency, and answering my questions. There you go. Conclusion is the first time I've messed up, which I'll take. So thanks for your time.
I'm not pointing out you're a glory hunting Liverpool fan because you're not from Liverpool.
Yeah, but we're still in four things. It's better than being a Motherwell fan, isn't it?
That's right, Motherwell. I'm from Motherwell.
Good. Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Wow, some great insights there from Steve, and hopefully some good stuff that people have taken away. Thanks for listening, and we welcome you on the next episode.